watching Race to Power. It's a brand new avatar. I'm Shreya Upadhyay. With me is Eric Njoka. Eric, hello, how are you doing?
I'm doing fine. Namaste.
Well, we are getting you your prime time stop for every big political update and in-depth analysis. There's so much that's happening around the world, wars, elections, protests. So we decided to get you a 1-hour comprehensive roundup and breakdown of the day's biggest stories.
So for the next 1 hour, we go beyond the headlines and rhetoric to bring you stories that are shaping governments, influencing policies, and redefining power. Tonight, we decode for you the big Netanyahu-Trump meeting where many say the Israeli Prime Minister played it cool and played it safe to underplay the differences with Trump as he approaches general elections this October. Despite many Israelis questioning the Iranian war, Netanyahu's approval rating is somewhat rising.
Well, interesting. We also get you the latest from Pakistan-occupied Kashmir. Remember, locals who've been protesting against Asim Munir are now getting support from not just within Pakistan, but also from across the world. And here in India, the southern Indian state of Karnataka is getting ready for a possible visit by Tamil Nadu's Chief Minister Vijay for discussions on the contentious Kaveri issue. We get you more details on the show tonight.
And with each passing day, the unrest in Pakistan-occupied Kashmir is getting bloodier, a region which continues to witness a wave of protests and mass killings by Pakistani forces.
Absolutely. The brutal crackdown is now drawing reactions from all corners of the world and, more importantly, from the heart of Pakistan.
Well, the visuals on your screen right now are from Pakistan's capital, Islamabad. Hundreds of students are seen demonstrating against the violence meted out by Pakistani forces against protesters in several areas of the POK. Students and other citizens have slammed the reactions coming out of the political corridors in Islamabad.
Our protest is aimed at stopping what we say the oppression of Muslims that has been taking place for the past 2 months in Rawalakot and across Kashmir. We have gathered here to urge the government to allow students to play their role in addressing the situation. We also protest against the rhetoric used by federal ministers, as we believe their language is worsening the situation. We want this issue to be resolved peacefully through dialogue with the people of Kashmir.
The one reaction in particular has drawn anger and criticism. Pakistan's Defence Minister Khwaja Asif has called the protesters and the people of POK, quote, enemies like India. He made this remark after many civilians and members of the Joint Awami Action Committee, or the JAAC, were killed in Rawalakot.
Local officials and independent estimates report that at least 30 people have been killed in just 2 days. The Joint Awami Action Committee, which is leading the protests, says 67 people were killed between June 5th and July 28th. Pakistan is trying to push through elections in the territory amid restrictions and killing.
One phase of the elections has already been held in the region this week. Remember, Pakistan's ruling party, the PMLN, has won 9 out of 13 seats that went to polls. The results were declared amid violence and allegations of rigging, but 2 more phases are yet to be held.
We believe that this is not an election, it is a total fraud. The election should have been conducted in a manner that allowed the people to freely exercise their right to vote and express their opinion. In the current situation, a public movement has emerged as a representative of the people, and they should have been given an opportunity. They wanted electoral reforms.
However, calls for boycotting the remaining phases of the elections have gotten louder. Raja Abrar-ul-Haq Minhas, who is a candidate for the All Jammu and Kashmir Muslim Conference in POK, has lashed out at Pakistani administration. Minhas urged people to alienate the elections during a funeral gathering for his brother who was killed during the clashes.
But remember, the problem does not end here. This is just one aspect of what has been unfolding in Pakistan. The northwestern province of Khyber Pakhtunkhwa has also witnessed volatility.
11 policemen or police personnel have been killed in an overnight militant attack in the Hangu district of Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. Security forces exchanged gunfire for over 5 hours, killing 15 armed militants. The unknown group first attacked a police post and then also ambushed security officials who had been sent as reinforcements.
The checkpost came under attack. DSP officers were traveling with us. The attackers had set up an ambush along the route and suddenly opened fire on us. DSP Mujahid Khan was injured in the attack, while DR Khan was inside the vehicle. We fought back bravely and put up a strong resistance.
And there is a consistently volatile third front as well, which is Balochistan. The region has witnessed numerous attacks on Pakistani forces, particularly by the Baloch Liberation Army or the BLA. It also has a long history of forced disappearances. In fact, just 2 weeks ago, Baloch activists declared independence of Balochistan from Pakistan.
For Islamabad, the problem is multifold. POK, Khyber Pakhtunkhwa and Balochistan. While Pakistan overall continues to battle crippling economic crises, the animosity and political division is only getting deeper. Let's move away from Pakistan now, and the US and Iran are back in attack mode after days-long pause in fighting. The battle of diplomacy, deterrence and dominance is being played out between American allies and Iran's axis in West Asia.
That's right, but one country that is trying to balance between the opposite poles of this war has been Egypt. The country sits at one of the most important maritime choke points, the Suez Canal. From Donald Trump's Gaza peace board to facilitating back-channel talks between Iran and United States, Egypt's balancing amid West Asia war is now facing a crucial test.
Yemen's Houthis are threatening to choke Bab al-Mandeb, which facilitates flow of oil and cargo via the Suez Canal, Egypt's most vital economic lifeline. On top of this, drone attack on Egypt's Mediterranean port of Damietta has further raised the stakes for Cairo. Egypt's petroleum ministry confirmed a fire at the port. The incident has intensified fears of a wider war, but the statement made no mention of a drone attack, and it did not provide a cause for the incident.
Reacting to the incident, US President Donald Trump said that he's been briefed about the incident and it is more of the same. In fact, he did not say who carried out the attack, but he vowed to hit Iran very hard.
Well, I'm going to give you a report. I've been briefed. It's a little more of the same, but it's going to be straightening out. It's going to be straightening out. In the meantime, we're going to be hitting them very hard because it's our turn to hit them. They know it's coming.
West Asia, which is most oil-rich region of the world, relies on 3 maritime routes to supply oil across the globe: the Strait of Hormuz, the Bab al-Mandeb, and the Suez Canal.
The attack on an Egyptian post is a worrying sign. A drone that could hit a Mediterranean port could also strike the 205-meter-wide Suez Canal. This could emerge as a new flashpoint in the ongoing war after the Strait of Hormuz and Bab al-Mandeb.
Suez Canal is a crucial maritime shipping route between Europe and Asia, handling roughly 12% of global trade. But the Asian countries could opt for a costly but a safer alternate route via the Cape of Good Hope in South Africa.
But Egypt does not have that choice. Remember, its economy heavily relies on revenue via the Suez Canal. And this is where Egypt's balancing act in the ongoing West Asia war could reach a breaking point. It has avoided military consequences of the Iran war, but a potential Red Sea crisis could inflict major economic damage.
Egypt's revenue via the Suez Canal is in sharp decline since 2023, when it recorded highest revenue of $10.25 billion. The number fell over 60% in 2024, with only $4 billion in revenue. The number recovered a bit in 2025, but a fresh crisis could potentially drag it down further. Shreya.
Absolutely, and the timing, remember, could not have been worse for Egypt. The country is one of the largest borrowers from the International Monetary Fund. It's already under IMF's Extended Fund Facility program, which leaves it with very little wiggle room to battle financial headwinds. Despite the economic impact it is poised to face, Egypt has very little say in the course of the wider conflict. The deck seems to be stacked against Egypt, and the rules of the game clearly are being decided either in Tehran or in Washington, D.C.
Let's now get some perspective. John Rossomando, president of Viking Research Associates, geostrategist and expert on national security, is joining us live on the broadcast from Washington, D.C. John Rossomando, it's good to see you and thank you very much for your time. Very quickly, what role do you think Egypt will play in this whole scenario of conflict in Iran?
Well, I think Egypt will try to play a mediator like it did in the Hamas-Gaza situation. But I don't see how any diplomacy is going to work here, because Iran has pretty much decided that it's going to continue the war. I mean, when the Iranians said in the first week that the Americans couldn't stop what they started, they should have been listened to. I think that we'll see, the Houthis activated the Bab el-Mandab. I mean, the latest attack against, American LNG in the Mediterranean is a disturbing trend, and I don't see any end to this.
John, good evening. Shreya here. This was what I was, asking you next, that how much of a role can diplomacy play? We've seen Pakistan doing that. There's been no real concrete, result out of that. Now, if Egypt plays mediator, what really comes off that?
Well, I think it becomes more of the same, because we're dealing with fanatics in the IRGC who want to keep the war going. I mean, we've seen diplomatic efforts, and everybody knew that the diplomacy would go nowhere, and that the MOU was worthless. You can't negotiate with the Islamic Republic.
All right, so we'll have to wait and see how this really moves forward. John, we'll leave it there. Thank you very much for joining us on Race to Power tonight and sharing your perspective.
Thank you.
All right, with that, let's also tell you how President Trump's recent meeting with the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu was unlike their previous interactions in Washington. This time, it was held in secret, and what many thought, it seemed quite odd, isn't it?
But was it? There were no pleasantries, usual statements before the questions by the press. The White House only published pictures after the 90-minute-long meeting, with this specific image being scrutinized by citizens. Take a look at that image. The outcome of the visit was different.
Well, you see, before this meeting, many of the president's allies thought that Netanyahu would push the president into a new, more durable phase of the war that could leave the U.S. embroiled in conflict in West Asia for months, if not years.
Well, that hope flipped, because Netanyahu is now stopping short of urging any specific actions, sticking instead to offering advice and information for now. The approach, described by a senior Israeli official, was a tacit acknowledgement that Israel, and Netanyahu in particular, need to tread carefully around Trump.
Well, both Netanyahu and Trump surveyed three options for the future of the Iran war, which are reach a deal on Iran's nuclear program, pursue only economic pressure through sanctions and a continuing blockade, or step up military action. And it's no wonder the Prime Minister said this after their meeting. Take a listen.
I just finished an excellent meeting with President Trump. When I say excellent, I don't mean it in a superficial way. A conversation with full partnership, with mutual support, with an understanding of the common goal of ensuring that Iran does not have nuclear weapons and other goals as well. It was one of the best conversations I've ever had with the President of the United States, our friend Donald Trump.
You see, Netanyahu is now more circumspect. The Israelis know that Trump is in charge, so they are being cautious about not being perceived as making demands. Netanyahu must avoid any perception that he is driving the countries to escalate further, particularly at a moment when he needs to keep Trump on side.
And especially now that elections are in the offing. A new television poll, remember, showed Netanyahu neck and neck with his foremost challenger, former IDF chief Gadi Eisenkot, when respondents were asked who they would choose to lead the country. The poll published by Channel 12 showed that 38% of the public would prefer to see Benjamin Netanyahu continue leading the country. But equally, 38% would want to see Eisenkot take over from him. Right, shifting our focus now, diary entries are a private space where one shares their most unfiltered, transparent, innermost thoughts. But that may not be applicable when you're a high-profile health official in the United States. And that is exactly what happened with Anthony Fauci. In a Senate hearing where many questions were asked, but no answers were given. Yet, the hearing was a revealing one.
That's very true. Republican Senator Randy Paul put Fauci's diary entries from over 6 years ago into the public spotlight. This unfolded during the now retired health official's Senate hearing. Randy released over 1,000 pages from Fauci's COVID pandemic era entries. The details are endless and also includes mentions of sitting President Donald Trump. Anthony Fauci had played a critical role in how U.S. handles the COVID-19 pandemic. His remarks on Trump begin positively in the diary, but eventually mention the president's, quote, rumbling and growing tensions due to differing views during the pandemic. Trump, on his part, said he watched the whole hearing.
Well, I watched the whole thing today, but more importantly, I was a part of the whole Fauci. I inherited Fauci. He was here from the 1980s, so I had him for a period of time. And I disagreed with him on a lot. I would have had to close down the whole country if I listened to him.
But what the U.S. president and many others would have witnessed is a story in itself. Anthony Fauci refused to answer any of the questions that were asked by the committee. He pleaded the fifth, which is his right to remain silent 100 times.
Under the advice of my attorneys, I will invoke my right under the Fifth Amendment of the Constitution to refrain from answering your questions. Thank you.
Can you explain to the committee why you chose to fund this dangerous research in China?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment of the Constitution.
In fact, even simple questions demanding an apology or about the color of his tie, Fauci continued to plead the fifth.
6 years later, do you have the dignity to just say you're sorry?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution. I respectfully decline to answer the Fifth Amendment of the Constitution.
Remember, for years now, Anthony Fauci has faced serious accusations of trying to push a certain kind of narrative about the origins of the coronavirus. Fauci has claimed that the virus originated naturally. The statement had gathered momentum across health experts and officials to sideline the lab leak theory.
I decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment of the Constitution.
President Trump says that he watched every minute of Dr. Anthony Fauci's Senate testimony, where the former White House COVID advisor repeatedly invoked the Fifth Amendment and declined to answer questions about the pandemic response and the origins of COVID-19. The hearing came after Senator Rand Paul released more than 1,000 pages of Fauci's private pandemic journals, revealing his growing frustration with President Donald Trump, who he described as rambling and a true embarrassment, while also documenting internal debate over the virus's origin. Republicans argue the diaries raises new questions about transparency and accountability, while Fauci maintains that he acted appropriately throughout the pandemic. Next week, the Senate is expected to consider whether to move forward with contempt proceedings against Fauci, keeping one of America's most divisive pandemic battles firmly in the spotlight. Susan Tarhwani reporting from New York for WION World is One.
So that, remember, has been what has been happening at the Senate hearing of Dr. Anthony Fauci. He has invoked the fifth, and that is, of course, 100 times. Quite shocking, but he had quite a heated debate with the senators there during his hearing, and now his diary entries have been made public.
Let's move to the United Kingdom now, Shreya. It has been 10 days since Andy Burnham became the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, while the new Labour leader has an uphill task ahead. In terms of policies he introduces, the change in leadership is a conversation that is not willing to die down among Britons of all ages.
Absolutely. On Wednesday, remember, Andy Burnham visited a care home in London where he met a couple of old British citizens. But his introduction and the candid reaction right at the beginning was very telling. Take a look.
You too. You too.
Robert up there.
Robert, nice to meet you. I'm you, Andy. I'm Andy. Hi, Andy.
I'm Dave.
Andy.
Andrew.
Yes, that's it. Yeah.
You are the local candidate, are you?
Oh, no. I was a local candidate. I had a by-election a few weeks ago, but no, I'm now the Prime Minister.
You what?
He's the Prime Minister.
Well, a new one.
Another one.
But I keep changing every time.
I know.
Candid indeed. As you heard from that clip, Burnham is the 7th Prime Minister of the United Kingdom in just 10 years. He succeeds Keir Starmer after opposition and even Labour Party lawmakers grew increasingly critical of Starmer's policies and his falling popularity. Share.
A massive loss in the local elections in May this year became the final deal breaker. But it was the welfare policy U-turn, like winter fuel payment cuts, which started Keir Starmer's downfall. And so Burnham now, in his new position as the Prime Minister, has made the care sector overall an important pitch.
We also know that care is variable across different organisations. There's good in all sectors, I said that at the start. But there's profiteering in this sector as well. And there is unnecessary and dangerous cost-cutting at times on the backs of vulnerable people, and that is fundamentally unacceptable. I think social care in England is as unfair as American healthcare. The vulnerable pay with everything, and it can completely leave them with nothing. And that flaw has been in place for a long, long time.
It is too soon to talk about Andy Burnham's popularity, but it is not just his policies that will determine how much Britons like or dislike him. How Burnham fares with respect to Reform UK rival Nigel Farage is also a critical determinant.
While Farage's latest funding scandal and the re-election bid may have triggered a wave of criticism, the Reform UK leader still garners support. Onto the Russia-Ukraine war now. Over 4 years into the war, Ukraine has been actively moving away from its Russian and Soviet heritage, from removing Soviet-era symbols, statues, monuments, to renaming streets and cities, to shifting cultural policies. Far from the front lines, Ukraine is now battling an identity war.
This widespread national awakening centers on de-Russification, promoting Ukrainian language and building stronger ties with Europe. Take, for instance, Christmas celebration, Moscow and Kyiv ringing the big day on different dates. 3 years ago, Ukraine switched its official Christmas to December 25th to match the calendar used by most of the world and Western churches.
Well, it removed remaining Soviet and Russian religious influences. Previously, Ukraine marked Christmas on the 7th of January and followed the calendar that the Russians do. When the Soviet era collapsed in late 1991, Ukraine removed large numbers of Soviet-era statues as part of decommunization. 2 decades later, Ukraine witnessed massive political crisis with Euromaidan protests. It was triggered by the then president, Viktor Yanukovych, who had suspended an association agreement with the European Union in favor of closer ties with Russia.
The decision sparked mass street protests across Kyiv. Clashes, police crackdowns, and ultimate demands for government resignation took center stage. These are the images of protesters pulling down the statue of Lenin at the prominent Bessarabka Square in Kyiv in 2013. The crowd toppled the sculpture, smashed it with sledgehammers. This moment marked a powerful symbolic turning point for the Euromaidan revolution.
With Russia seizing Crimea in 2014, followed by the Ukraine war in 2022, Kiev has sped up the process of completely dismantling every single public monument dedicated to Vladimir Lenin. Today, there are 0 public Lenin statues remaining in government-controlled areas of Ukraine.
On June 28th, President Volodymyr Zelensky proposed placing a monument of Cossack hetman Ivan Mazepa on the vacant plinth on Taras Shevchenko Boulevard in Kiev, where the statue of Lenin once stood. Zelensky calls it a step towards restoring historical justice.
In fact, Ivan Mazepa was a prominent Cossack military and political leader who broke with Moscow and fought for Ukraine's independence. As hetman or head of Cossack Ukraine, Mazepa sought to balance the demands of the neighboring Moscow and Warsaw. Ukraine views him as the architect of European Ukraine. But Russia views Mazepa as a traitor, a duplicitous turncoat and a political rebel who betrayed Tsar Peter the Great and formed an alliance with Charles XII of Sweden during the Great Northern War in 1709 to seek Ukrainian independence. Well, coming up on Race to Power in just a bit, in India, opposition parties have been demanding answers from the Union Home Minister Amit Shah on the police using excessive force against the youth protesters during last week's protests. We get you all the details.
In-depth coverage of global issues broken down into facts, figures, and simple words. Backed with analysis from field experts who truly matter, because we believe in decoding the real picture for you. So you get a much wider and deeper understanding of stories from around the world, a 360-degree analysis. An award-winning documentary series, week after week creating the maximum impact. Watch WION Wide Angle at these times on WION. World is One.
The stress of our world can take a toll on our physical and emotional health. Here, in New York's Catskill Mountains, lies a luxurious place of healing called WION Wellness Center. The WION Wellness Center provides 500,000 square feet of natural methods to manage diabetes, hypertension, chronic pain, obesity, depression, anxiety, and other conditions. We use the traditions of centuries-old natural science from India, yoga, Ayurveda, acupuncture, and naturopathy in personalized programs that help you take charge of your own health. A minimum 5-day stay is recommended for best results. Book now at WION.com.
Welcome back to Race to Power on WION The World as One. We are glad you're watching. This is Shreya and I'm Eric. We are glad you're watching. Let's move on to our next segment. It's called Asia Watch.
Well, let's talk about China. China's ruling Communist Party has set the stage for the critical political and economic policies for the months ahead. At a Politburo meeting, the Chinese President Xi Jinping said that the country must resolve economic risks, improve people's well-being, and strengthen innovation and tap the full potential of domestic demand.
In a rare admission, Politburo concluded that China's economy continues to face difficulties and challenges as growth remains uneven. Rather than unveiling a massive stimulus package, China's highest decision-making body chose to double down on existing plans. The Politburo said the government will speed up fiscal spending, accelerate the use of bond proceeds, and deploy already approved infrastructure projects to support growth during the rest of the year.
At the same time, Beijing made it clear that its priority remains curbing industrial overcapacity rather than launching a large-scale economic rescue. The leadership vowed to continue its campaign against what it calls involuntary competition, a reference to intense price wars that have eroded profits across several industries.
The Politburo also reiterated its pledge to boost domestic demand, expand service consumption, and stabilize the property market. On the political front, the Communist Party announced that its 5th plenum will be held in October. The high-level gathering will bring together more than 300 members of the party's Central Committee to discuss party self-governance, anti-corruption efforts, and other strategic issues.
The session is expected to come as President Xi Jinping continues his long-running campaign to tighten party discipline after a number of officials had been investigated under his anti-corruption purge.
China's leaders recognized the economic headwinds, but rather than reaching for a big fiscal bazooka, they are betting that faster implementation of existing policies, stronger domestic demand and tighter party control will be enough to keep the economy on track. The October 5th plenum is now expected to provide a clearer picture of China's longer-term economic and political direction as Beijing tries to balance slower growth, global trade pressures and its ambitions for rapid development.
From China, let's talk about Japan now. Japan will temporarily slash consumption tax on food from 8% to just 1% starting April 2027. This as the Japanese Prime Minister Sanai Takaichi is trying to tackle rising inflation in the country. Remember, this will be the first such reduction since the tax was introduced in 1989, and the rate will return to 8% after 2 years. Takaichi's decision comes despite the opposition party criticism and concerns among her fellow LDP members about how around $60 billion or 10 trillion yen in lost revenue would be covered.
That's a bigger question. In an extraordinary meeting of Liberal Democratic Party executives, Takaichi said, and I quote, "The system will alleviate the burden on low and middle income working age individuals, thereby addressing the urgent need to encourage workforce participation," end of quotes. The move aims to ease cost of living pressures in the world's 4th largest economy, which have been rising due to the war in West Asia and the weak yen. Japan has colossal debts, which are more than twice the size of its gross domestic product, the highest ratio among advanced economies.
The Kaichi has pledged in February this year to eliminate the sales tax on food and beverages, which is a key part of her manifesto that helped her win a resounding victory in the lower house elections. Earlier in the week, the Japanese Prime Minister defended her economic policy, saying that the government efforts to prioritize the country's growth potential will strengthen market trust. Now, this approval rating of the Kaichi's administration, remember, slumped in July to the lowest level since she took office last year. In the Yomiuri poll, 71% of the respondents disapproved of the government's efforts to combat price hikes. Her overall approval fell 12 percentage points to 57%, which is down from 69% in June. Disapproval rose from 21 to 34%.
The sliding popularity adds to Takaichi's troubles, who has seen her expansionary fiscal and monetary policy bias cause a spike in bond yields and a slump in the yen to 4-decade lows. Despite the slump, market economists and political analysts believe that Takaichi's numbers remain relatively strong compared to her recent predecessors. Malaysian Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim has said that Myanmar has agreed to take 5,000 Rohingya asylum seekers currently in Malaysia. The Malaysian Prime Minister says good ties with Myanmar enable the two countries to negotiate on the issue.
That's right. The Malaysian Home Ministry has been tasked with locating, identifying and screening the refugees. Muslim-majority Malaysia has long been seen as a safe haven for Rohingyas fleeing persecution in the largely Buddhist Myanmar. Around 126,000 Rohingyas registered with the UNHCR in Malaysia at the end of February. On Monday, Malaysian authorities detained over 100 Rohingya Muslim asylum seekers. The refugees had gathered outside the UN Refugee Agency in Kuala Lumpur, seeking protection after being evicted from their homes. All of the refugees outside the UNHCR were taken away with their belongings in 4 police trucks.
We wanted to find homes, but we weren't allowed to rent. No one is letting to the refugees here. Then we wanted to go to the UN office. The officers should be here. We went here by bus and we were escorted here, but no one is here. We stayed here, but they're not letting us stay. We don't know what else to do.
Malaysian Prime Minister said the gathering outside the UNHCR building raised concerns from the public and warned that anyone without proper permits will be detained by immigration authorities. The refugees, who included women and children, said they were driven out of their homes by locals in the northern Malaysian state of Penang and had travelled to the capital on buses overnight. The evictions came amid a rise in online hate speech and misinformation targeting the Rohingya since May that has led to greater harassment and scrutiny of the community.
That's right, and that includes widespread school closures. Malaysia is not a signatory to the UN Refugee Convention and regards asylum seekers as illegal migrants. Earlier this month, the Malaysian government had asked the UNHCR to temporarily stop registering new refugees in the country as it builds a domestic system to manage asylum seekers. Malaysian Foreign Ministry has called for a review of the UNHCR's domestic operations unless it imposed stricter controls on issuing refugee documents. The Indian Parliament witnessed yet another high-voltage day in the ongoing monsoon session as the government and the opposition clashed over examination reforms, student protests and accountability, even as legislative business moved forward in both the houses. The biggest flashpoint today came in the Rajya Sabha, where members debated the Public Examinations Prevention of Unfair Means Amendment Bill. Remember, this legislation, which was passed by the Lok Sabha this week, seeks to strengthen India's anti-paper leak law by providing stricter punishments, faster investigation and quicker trials against organized exam fraud.
But the debate quickly turned into a wider political confrontation. Congress President and Leader of Opposition in the Rajya Sabha, Mallikarjun Kharge, argued that the government was trying to project the bill as a solution while ignoring repeated failures that allowed paper leaks to occur in the first place.
Public Examination Amendment Bill.
You have just changed the figures in the Public Examination Amendment Bill 2026, which has come here for discussion. In this bill, only the figures kept changing. Nothing is going to happen with that. You have included provisions like higher fines, harsher punishment, special task force, fast-track courts, etc. This is not going to make any difference.
Mallikarjun Kharge questioned why the Prime Minister Narendra Modi and the Union Home Minister Amit Shah had remained silent on the controversy surrounding the recent examination leaks. He maintained that students across the country had lost confidence in the examination system and demanded accountability from the highest levels of the government.
The government, however, strongly defended the legislation. Union Minister Jitendra Singh said that there is a zero-tolerance approach towards paper leaks.
Prime Minister Modi ji lost no time to declare that nobody will be allowed to jeopardize the future of our children, and also announced the resolve of zero tolerance to paper leak. And hence, this legislation, which seeks to make amendments in 2024 Act in order to make it more stringent, more deterrent, is being brought in.
However, the opposition was not satisfied and they continued to corner the government on alleged police excesses during the July 20th protest by the Cockroach Janta Party. They held placards with who gave the orders written on them and accused the Union Home Minister of acting against the protesting students.
The excuse was that I said something about Mr. Amit Shah. I said that Mr. Amit Shah was responsible for the brutality that was carried out. I also given him assurance that if I apologize, then I will be allowed to continue to speak. See, the first thing is I will never ever apologize to the BJP, RSS or any other person associated with them.
While the debate continued in the Rajya Sabha, the Lok Sabha passed the Prevention of Insults to National Honour Amendment Bill 2006, even as the opposition members raised questions over legislative priorities amid the ongoing concerns over student issues. Remember, this bill essentially extends the same legal protection currently available to the national anthem to the national song, that's Vande Mataram. The bill had already been cleared by the Rajya Sabha and it now awaits the presidential assent. With more business listed for the remaining days of the session, the political contest inside the parliament is clearly not ending anytime soon.
Ms. Aditi Fadnis is a senior journalist and contributing editor at Business Standard. She's now joining us live on the broadcast from New Delhi. Ms. Aditi, it's good to see you. What do you think will happen in the coming weeks in Parliament, given that there's this commotion on the bill?
Well, there's barely 2 weeks left for Parliament, and 2 weeks is a notional time period because, as you know, weekends and other days when Parliament doesn't work are not counted. So in that period, you have to pass this exam reform, which is proving to be more contentious than we thought. Although in principle, most opposition parties say they support the bill, the fact that how did we get here, that we need a bill to prevent people from cheating in exams is itself a very complicated issue. So I don't think too much work is going to be done in the monsoon session. That is too much work of consequence. And we have to see now, how things proceed, because tomorrow is private members' bill in the afternoon and Saturday is off. So I mean, the week is gone.
You know, Aditiji, we've been showing these visuals that have emerged out of the parliament today, the opposition really cornering the government over the police action against the young protesters and the students on the 20th of July. You know, the police and the law enforcement agencies say that, look, this was done only to maintain law and order. But what would it take the government to come out with a statement saying, you know, their own response, their own version of what had happened that day? They've been talking about the paper leak and the law around it, but no word really, no concrete response to what the opposition has been demanding an answer to. That's the police action against students.
Well, I have been saying this from day one. You cannot expect the police to be gentle, kind, placatory, cajoling the students, cajoling anybody for that matter, against whom they're supposed to take action. I mean, frankly, I would be quite disappointed if they were to do that. That said, the decision to call in the police is itself an admission of failure, because you need to have, and these are not people who are hardened criminals. They were just young people who were angry. All you needed to do was talk to them and reach out to them and say, yes, mistakes have been made, we will correct it. Instead of that, you call police with batons, and if you give a baton in the hand of the police, he will use it. He's trained to use it. So the whole thing is, you know, complete mismanagement. And let's face it, I mean, we know that the police Jawan, who was the paramilitary force Jawan in Patna, has actually fired using an AK-47.
That's right.
I mean, whoever gave him an AK-47 to use in on a group of young people who are unarmed.
Yeah, yeah,
so
absolutely.
The whole thing reeks of mismanagement, and I mean, I'm deeply ashamed that we should have come to this at this point.
That's right. You know, perhaps a better response would have been more welcome than whatever happened. But I'll leave it there. Aditiji, thank you very much for joining us on WION and sharing your perspective.
Thank you.
Let's move to southern India. Tensions between Karnataka and Tamil Nadu has reached a fever pitch. The dispute over Kaveri water sharing and the construction of the proposed Mekedatu Dam is refusing to die down. As tensions escalate, Tamil Nadu Chief Minister Vijay has proposed a meeting with his Karnataka counterpart DK Shivakumar.
That's right, and Bengaluru has been gearing up to host this meeting, which is widely expected to take place on the 3rd of August. Both Karnataka Chief Minister DK Shivakumar and the Deputy Chief Minister G. Parmeshwara have expressed optimism about the meeting. However, an official confirmation is still awaited.
Two separate yet connected issues are at the heart of the dispute. The first relates to Karnataka's proposal to construct a dam over the Kaveri River, while the second issue relates to disagreements over sharing of Kaveri's waters. To understand this dispute, let's go back to 2018, when after over a decade of disagreements, the two states agreed to share Kaveri's water as per the formula laid down by the Supreme Court.
The total water that's available in the Kaveri River Basin stands at 740,000 million cubic feet. In its 2018 verdict, the Supreme Court of India had allocated around 285,000 million cubic feet water to Karnataka, while Tamil Nadu was allocated around 404,000 million cubic feet. In distress years, that is when rainfall is inadequate. The Kaveri Water Management Authority and the Kaveri Water Regulation Committee were empowered to recommend revised monthly releases of the water. Last week, during the 53rd meeting of the Kaveri Water Management Authority, Karnataka declined Tamil Nadu's request to release water from the Kaveri River. The state cited poor monsoon and declining reservoir levels to reject Tamil Nadu's request.
Then earlier this week, the Kaveri Water Regulation Committee directed Karnataka to release 3,500 cusecs of water from the Kaveri River for the next 15 days. But Karnataka once again refused, saying it would challenge the committee's order. Simultaneously, another major row erupted between the two states after the centre, in a reply in Parliament, said that Karnataka does not require the consent of Tamil Nadu to construct the proposed Mekedatu Dam over Kaveri River.
Tamil Nadu Chief Minister Vijay then shot off a letter to the Prime Minister, Mr. Narendra Modi. Vijay alleged that in its reply, the centre selectively quoted the Supreme Court's verdict and overlooked settled legal principles and rights of downstream states. Vijay argued that Karnataka cannot construct the dam without mutual agreement and consultation. Remember, in Tamil Nadu, Vijay's TVK has come under intense attack from the opposition. PMK chief Anumbani Ramadas has warned Tamil Nadu chief minister, saying the proposed meeting with the Karnataka chief minister will be a grave mistake. The DMK chief, meanwhile, MK Stalin, has warned Vijay as well, calling the talks a strategic trap designed by Karnataka to dilute Tamil Nadu's legal leverage.
Karnataka maintains that the Mekedatu Dam will store excess water after releasing the stipulated quantum to Tamil Nadu. But the project has faced strong opposition from Tamil Nadu, which has raised concerns over its potential impact on downstream water availability. All eyes are now on the proposed August 3rd meeting. The last time a similar meeting took place was in 2012, when then Tamil Nadu Chief Minister Jaya Lalita had met then Karnataka Chief Minister Jagadish Shettar. 14 years later, the two states seem to be back to square one.
Moving on now, political statues serve as permanent visual reminders of historical power, national identity and ideological dominance. In the latest, the statue of Bengali cinema icon Uttam Kumar has now sparked a fresh political controversy in the state of West Bengal. Chief Minister Shubhendu Adhikari inaugurated Uttam Kumar's statue on the 24th of July, marking the legendary actor's 46th death anniversary. As videos circulated online, netizens claim that it has no resemblance from the yesteryear superstar.
Opposition also joined in, with Trinamool Congress's Kunal Ghosh urging the government to replace Uttam Kumar's statue with something better. He said that the statue was perhaps a work of haste. The political flashpoint comes even as the Trinamool Congress faces major predicament. Over 2 months after being voted out of office, the party is facing a rebellion by most of its legislators, a split among its members of parliament, and growing doubts about the authority of its founder, Mamata Banerjee.
In the latest, Mamata Banerjee has urged the Election Commission to conclude the dispute over the Trinamool Congress name, election symbol and organizational control. In a letter to the poll panel, she has claimed that the rival faction led by Ritabrata Banerjee has failed to respond despite multiple deadline extensions. She has argued that no further opportunity should be granted. In fact, the communication has come at a politically sensitive time, with the Election Commission examining rival claims over the recognized state party after an unprecedented split within the Trinamool Congress.
Now, the Election Commission's decision will determine which faction is recognized as a real Trinamool Congress and who retains the party's symbol, assets and organizational structure. And now to our verdict. Is this the last battle for Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu? The Israeli Knesset elections are scheduled for October 27th, and Netanyahu had placed considerable hope on the war's outcome to enhance his political standing. The consequences of the war are some of the events widely perceived as exposing weakness in his relationship with US President Donald Trump. For Netanyahu, Trump's support was a critical pillar of his re-election strategy. Then there is the rise of Gadi Eisenhower's party, Yashar Straight. Despite attempts by right-wing political actors to discredit him, Eisenhower's popularity continues to grow. Netanyahu has initiated a series of measures aimed at improving his electoral prospects. The most significant of these involves reshaping Likud's image by repositioning it from an extremist party to a more moderate right-wing force, which seems far-fetched. All in all, even after 7 meetings with Trump and projecting some form of bond, Bibi is on tenterhooks. His defeat could take one of two forms. Either his coalition fails to secure the 61 seats required to form a government, or he is not tasked with forming one after the elections. His chances of losing appear greater than his chances of winning. Even though he does not show it, he feels it.
Well, we'll have to see how that goes for Benjamin Netanyahu and, of course, Donald Trump, who's heading to the midterms in November this year. With that, it's a wrap on this edition of Race to Power. But tomorrow we'll be back with new updates, new political analysis, and all the day's roundup's biggest political stories.
Thank you for watching. I'm Eric Njoka. Namaskar.
Bye-bye.
In-depth coverage of global issues broken down into facts, figures, and simple words. Backed with analysis from field experts who truly matter, because we believe in decoding the real picture for you. So you get a much wider and deeper understanding of stories from around the world, a 360-degree analysis. An award-winning documentary series, week after week creating the maximum impact. Watch WION Wide Angle at these times on WION. World is One.
WION, India's global voice. The channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide. Because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION. World is One. From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the